It should come as no surprise to you that when you're intelligent and smart, getting rich and becoming successful is so much easier. And during this video, what I'm going to do is explain how to become smart and how to become intelligent. Now, to make a video like that, you obviously have to have some level of confidence in your own intelligence. And I don't want to come across as this guy like, oh, I know everything and I'm really smart and I'm really clever, because truly I'm not. The smartest people in the world think they're the dumbest people in the world. And the reason that they're so smart and wise is because they think they're not. So they try to be, and they have to keep learning to keep up with this dissipation of their identity, basically. And so I'm going to make this video. The intention here is not for me to come across as some smart ass that knows everything, but I do know a few things. I know enough to make millions of dollars a year. I know enough to make videos on YouTube that help people with their lives. And I hope that during the course of this video, I can part some knowledge with you on how to acquire knowledge and amass that into a tool, because that's really where we'll start, is with the understanding that knowledge is a tool. And you've probably heard the phrase before that knowledge is power. And maybe you've also heard this quote from Archimedes: "Give me a lever long enough and I will move the world." In thinking, we have a idea or abstraction called leverage. And what leverage basically denotes is using something to get something, i.e. a tool. So let's say that you have a hammer and you want to put a nail into a wooden board. Well, what you could do is you could take your hand and press it on the nail and use your fist to bang the nail into the wall or the floorboard or whatever. And that would probably hurt, and it would probably be inefficient, and you'd probably waste a lot of energy. So you could either use your fist, or what you could do is you could use your forehead and try and hammer this nail into the board. Or what you could do is you could use the appropriate tool and get a hammer, and with a couple of quick strokes, have that nail in there, move on to the next one. Using knowledge is no different. When you come to solve problems in life, whether that is in business, financially, with your relationships, with your health, with your money, with anything in your life, with your friends, with your social situation or your career, you're going to be faced with problems. And to solve those problems, what you need to do is apply information that, through the application of it, produces an outcome that is most appropriate to the result that you wish to achieve. And what this basically means is your brain is very good at synthesizing information and taking information and applying that information to situations to produce an outcome. And all you have in life, really at first principle, to solve problems and navigate this chaos of your existence, all you really have is your knowledge. And your knowledge is basically all of the information that you've taken into your brain through your sensory organs and through your imagination that you've created and amassed into this bank that is your brain. And when you're faced with a problem or a decision to make, what you do unconsciously is you filter through all of that knowledge and you use that knowledge to make a decision. And so, if you're coming to a fork in the road in your life, which is typically how, the metaphorical idea that we use to denote a decision you've got to make. Let's say you get to a fork in the road and you need to know whether you should take path A to go this way or path B to go this way. What you'll do is you'll use your knowledge of what might path A lead down to or what might path B lead down to decide which one you should go down. And this is how we make decisions. And the reason this is so crucial to learning how to make money and learning how to become successful and learn how to get rich and be healthy and all these things is because in these little facets of your existence, whether that is money or health or relationships, the quality of that part of your life is basically an amalgamation of all the decisions you've made associated with it. And so when you come to make a decision like what business should I pick, or what niche should I go into, or what should I sell, or what should I charge, or what script should I use to sell this product, or what website should I use, or how should my personal brand look, all of these things are decisions that have an infinite array of options. And when it comes to making decisions, we have two types of thinking. We have divergent thinking and convergent thinking. So a divergent thinker is someone who fans out as many options as they possibly can to see what to pick from. And a convergent thinker is someone who is able to converge on a very few appropriate decisions and variables, if that makes sense. So let's say that you are trying to decide what business to pick, and a divergent thinker would try and like think about every single business, but a convergent thinker would just try and think about like one or two, if that makes sense. The point I'm making there is when it comes to picking things and making decisions, the only way you know what to pick is based on what you know. And the reason that people get snookered and stuck in their life, and the reason they don't make progress and end up with these miserable and unhappy existences, is because they're not smart. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I don't mean to call people stupid or unintelligent or retarded or anything like that. But here's how it goes. You may have heard of the phrase, when it comes to your body, that you are what you eat. And if you're fat and overweight and out of shape, then it's probably because you're consuming things that reduce your physiology to that outcome. With your mind, it's the same thing, but you are what you consume. And what that means is that the information that you consume is all that your brain has to work with to output decisions. And so, when you're trying to pick or choose an option and you're trying to think of what's optimal, trying to optimize for this goal, whether that's to get rich or be happy or, have a meaningful, fulfilled life, there's lots of different paths and things that you can pick to get there. And you need to pick the right thing. You need to pick the fastest, easiest, least effort way that has the most guaranteed outcome of you getting what you want. And the only way that you know what to pick is based on what you know. And what you know is what you've consumed. And so how do you get smart? Well, it's simple. You consume the right stuff. So what most people do through life is their consumption of information is limited to movies, TV series, social media, short form content, YouTube videos, and maybe the odd podcast, and then all of their friends and families, and maybe a couple of books they've read. And so the consumption of media, which is basically the transfer of information from one person to another, because if you think about what is this video? This is a piece of media where I'm transferring information to you. This is obviously a non-fictional, practical series of words that I've strung together to teach you how to do something. But even when you're watching a movie, you're consuming information. And your intelligence and how intelligent you are is determined by all these information points that are sort of feeding into your brain, if that makes sense. And so the way that I've become smarter than the average person, and I say that with no ego, and I say that not to put my hands on my hips and say, oh, I'm smarter than you, because truly that doesn't bother me. But it's hard to make millions of dollars, and the point I'm making is getting rich and becoming a millionaire is a lot easier when you're smarter than the average person. And getting smart is about consuming the right information. So reading, podcasts, and basically just getting rid of everything that is just junk and crap. So, all of these political debates that you watch, all of the brain rot you watch, all of the random emotional movies and series that you watch, all of the crappy books that you read, this is information that everyone has and has access to. And has it ever occurred to you that if you want what everybody else has, all you've got to do is do what they do? And the reason that everyone sits in this cloud of misery, the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. What's called resignation is confirmed desperation. That's a quote from Henry Thoreau. And the reason that the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation is because they're all using the same mental comprehension mechanism to deal with the decisions and struggles and problems of life. And the reason they all have the same mental comprehension mechanism to deal with these struggles is because they receive information from the same inputs. They all watch the same movies, the same TV shows, they've got the same social media algorithms, they watch the same commentators, they watch the same sports, they watch the same YouTubers, they listen to the same podcasts, they read the same self-help books, they watch the same gurus, and all of the information they get is from the same place. So if you're trying to be successful and achieve some good level of outcome in your business or in your life or in your career or in your health, your family, wherever it is you're looking, it helps to go a little further afield than what's immediately available and trite. And when it comes to learning and when it comes to gathering knowledge to execute on, to make better decisions and move more intelligently through the world, there's two types of knowledge that you can pull on. We've got trite knowledge, which is surface level, shallow knowledge that everyone has, everyone that is available to basically everyone without much searching. And these are things like cliches and just basic knowledge, like you should sleep for 8 hours a night, or, smoking is bad for you. These are pieces of knowledge that we all just know. It's trite. It's early beta release access. Everyone has access to it. It's very simple. But the other alternative to that is deep deep knowledge that you can only get by sitting through a book for 8 hours and reading a specific point and connecting it to something earlier in the book, or knowledge you can only get by listening to a 4-hour podcast, or knowledge you can only get by buying a certain book or like a certain course, or like listening to a certain mentor or something. And the way that I built my mental comprehension mechanism, and I'll tell you how I did it. I've read, I think, about 500 to 600 books. During COVID, didn't have much to do with work or my business, so I basically read like a couple of hundred books during COVID. And I've routinely read a book or so, not more than one book a week, but like a book every 1 or 2 weeks. I've read like a book, a non-fiction book, pretty much non-stop for the last like 10 years now. So I started when I was 17, I'm 27 now. And reading, what reading does is it does a few things. First of all, knowledge and intelligence and wisdom is exponential, and it kind of works on like a what's the word I'm looking for here? It works on it's like a network effect, which means that when you read one book, you're not very smart. When you read 2 books, you're not very smart. But when you read like 100 books, you become really smart. Not because you've read 100 individual books, but because your brain can make like 100 billion different cross-references between all the knowledge that you've read. 100 billion is probably an exaggeration. It's probably not that, you're probably not that intelligent. I don't think anyone is. But my point is that if I read another book now, then I've got 500 points of reference to synthesize that information and connect to it. And so your brain becomes like this hive mind for knowledge. And the same thing is true with podcasts and listening to ebooks and stuff like that as well. I personally hate ebooks, and I think that they're a load of rubbish and a massive cope for anyone reading, because people listen to ebooks when they're doing other things, which means that their sole point of attention isn't on. And if you want information to actually embed into your comprehension mechanism and inform your decisions, it needs to be consumed with your full conscious intent, not whilst you're driving, not whilst you're working out, not whilst you're, going for a walk or something. Like, it needs to be like, just nothing else needs to be happening in terms of your motor function or in terms of your cognitive function for that piece of information to truly embed itself into your brain. And so I believe in physical books and reading as opposed to ebooks. And the same thing is true with YouTube videos and watching a video as opposed to listening to it. Like, it makes a big difference. But anyway, the point I'm making is the way that you get really smart is you read your first 100 books, but then what you realize is after a certain point, every book you read, it's almost like, for you, it's like reading one book, right? Because you've only read one, but you almost gain the knowledge of like 10. Because what you get to do is you get to basically unconsciously make all these points of reference. So let's say that I've read 50 books on psychology, which might be a little low, but I've probably read a few more than that. Let's say I read 50 books on psychology. If I read a new book on psychology, what I'm going to do in my brain as I'm reading is my understanding of this new book is so much deeper and vast than the average person, because I've got 50 points of reference. And this is how expertise works, and this is how mastery works, and this is how intelligence literally works, is you comprehend new information based on the information you already have, and you store it and use it accordingly. And so my point is that it takes time to build intelligence, and it takes time to get smart. But you hit this sort of critical point of no return, where you've got such a broad knowledge to pull from that when you add new stuff, that new stuff is like 10 times more powerful because it's contextualized against the underlying base information that it's sitting on top of, if that makes sense. And that's basically how you get smart, is just read a lot. And don't just read the trite, high-level, shallow stuff like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Like, something that really gets my goat is this. People say they want to be rich, and they say they want to be successful, and they say they want to make money, and then they go and read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and they're still not rich. It's like, if the contents of Think and Grow Rich were what you needed to do to be rich and successful, then everyone who reads Think and Grow Rich would be rich and successful, but they're not. And it's like the most commonly read book on how to make money. And as you're probably aware, it's pretty common for people to not make money and be successful. And so it doesn't occur to people usually that the contents of that book aren't the sole thing that make you successful. And this is the thing, is, are there parts of that book that are useful and helpful? I've read it before. Yes, there are parts of that book that are useful and helpful, but only when contextualized against lots of other points of knowledge. Because what you're doing when you're reading and when you're consuming information, what you're doing is you're reading points. So you're basically reading like these little aggregates of words that are strung together to communicate the nature of a component of reality that you can synthesize and use in your brain to apply to problems so you can move forward and solve things and basically make progress. And so when you're faced with a situation or a problem, you go into your brain and you quickly scan through all of the stuff that you know, which is everything that you've consumed on an information sensory level. So it could be through reading or it could be through brain rot. And then you use that information to make a decision. And this is the thing, is it's an output. And the quality of an output in a system is solely determined by the quality of the input. And so, you know, if you think about this on any level with any system ever, like what you put in is what you get out. So if I'm cooking you a meal and I put in rotten food as the ingredients, then the meal, no matter how hard I try, is going to taste disgusting. In the same way that if you have a vehicle, if you have a car and you fuel it with really bad quality fuel, then the car won't run, or at least it won't run efficiently and it will run really terribly. Or, you know, if I'm a salesperson and I'm talking to really, really bad unqualified leads, it doesn't matter how good I am at sales, those people are never going to buy because they're just terribly unqualified. Inputs determine outputs. And if the output of your existence is your decisions, and your decisions basically create your life, and so if you're putting in information into your brain that is terrible, then you're going to get terrible results. And this is why so many people are poor and unsuccessful, is it's because they don't realize it, but they consume information that is just junk and it's crap. You know, it's like people who like watch the news all the time, people who are on Twitter all the time, people who are constantly like reading comments on like YouTube. What you're doing when you scroll down to see the comments is you're consuming information from people stupid enough to comment on YouTube videos, at least negative, because you're just looking for drama, right? You're looking for negative comments half the time. I take that back. There's lots of comments on there that are informative and helpful and stuff like that, but you know what I mean? People trying to get to arguments and stuff, and like, you know, people watching like, you know, like Jubilee's new 20 versus 1 video, or some like brain rot Mr. Beast 15-minute like hyper stimulating chaos. It's like, how the hell do you expect to make good decisions when like your brain, the only thing your brain can use is this thing? Because this is the thing, is your brain's not stupid. Your brain's not the problem. Because your brain is the product of billions of years of evolution, and it's the most intricate organic thing that we know of, and you have one. You have a brain, and it's fucking awesome, and it can do incredible things, and it is amazing, and you've got this marvel between your ears, this marvel of evolutionary engineering, this complete like nature's perception of literal perfection exists in your head. But the reason that you can't use it, and the reason that you can't use it to actually make good decisions and become successful and get what you want and use it to its full capacity, is because you're feeding it crap. And it has no other choice. It's like a petrol car running on diesel. Like, it wants to run on wisdom and knowledge. And if you feed it those things, then it will be able to basically produce decisions. And people think that success is about like this, having this crazy, insane work ethic and just like grinding it out. But you've probably heard the phrase before, work smart, not hard, right? Well, what does it mean to be smart? It basically means to have a wealth of knowledge that you can pull on to synthesize, to inform your decisions that are optimal for the outcome to which you desire. In life, you have a goal, which is basically what you want, underpinned by what you need. So that could be money, it could be a relationship, it could be health, it could be a six-pack, whatever. You have what you want. And what you do is you use your brain to decide what you should do to get what you want. And there's lots of things that you can do, some of which will be better than others. Some will be faster, some will be harder, some will be easier, some won't work. And you pick those options based on the knowledge of those options available to you in your brain and what you would project them being in the future as you execute on them. And the only thing that your brain can use, your brain's very smart, but it's only as smart as what it receives. Its mechanisms are perfectly engineered. Like your brain, it's kind of like you've got the Lamborghini engine in your head. Like, you've got the thing, and it's perfectly capable of doing what it needs to do and helping you engineer your life in this amazing way. You're just giving it like canola oil to run off of. Of course it's not going to run. And then you think you're dumb. You're not dumb. You just have the wrong information, and you can't synthesize intelligent decisions because you're using terrible information to make them. It's kind of like if you were a general in the military and you were trying to make war decisions on where to put your troops or what battles to take or where to advance and where to retreat. Good generals make decisions based on information available to them from scouts, from frontline reports, from their officers, and from, looking at the battlefield. And if the general is receiving bad information, then he's going to make a bad decision. And it's not because the general's decision-making capacity isn't good, and it doesn't mean that he's not prudent. It just means that the information he's received that has informed that decision is a bad thing, right? And really that's what it comes down to, is people think that being a good strategist or, business person is about being this brilliantly intelligent, being that can just foresee everything and consider the fifth order consequences of multitudes and just be a genius. But really what it is just having access to the most accurate information and using that to inform smart decisions. And that's basically how you get smart and how you can use intelligence to get rich. And I know it works because I did it. And I'm still fucking stupid. Trust me. And I'm sure there's comments right now. You can probably go and see them if you want to scroll. And there's going to be comments right now saying oh, this guy thinks he's smart and he's not. And I'm not smart. Let me make this very clear. I'm smart enough to make $10 million a year and have what I have in my life. But in comparison to some people that I know and some entrepreneurs and people that I know who are way richer than me or way more successful, I am an idiot. And I have so much to learn and so much information to gather before I can even conjure up a morsel of their intelligence. I've got so far to go. So I don't want you to think that I'm sat on a high horse. I really am not. And I really am an idiot sometimes. And I really do make stupid decisions sometimes. But just bear that in mind. So yeah, that's it. Ciao. Hey everyone, this is Future Charlie, and this message concerns marketing agency owners, coaches, consultants, and B2B service providers. So if that's not you, you can click away. I know the video is finished, but just give me a second here. If you are one of those people and you need help getting more clients, i.e. you're struggling to book appointments or consistently close new deals, new clients, there's a link in the description you can click that will take you to a video that is quite frankly and honestly a pitch of me trying to sell you some sort of service that would help you solve that problem. So if you want to check that out, be my guest, click the link in the description. If not, no worries at all. Have a good day.